Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today, well, today is Throat Punch Thursday.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Who's ready?
It's Throw Punch Thursday, bitch.
As Mike would say, wow. Um, that's what you get. That's what you get for showing up in ranger panties. I am not a ranger. I do not know that they are referred to as ranger panties. I'm just quoting my boy Mike. Just don't blame me. Don't blame don't shoot the messenger, shall we say. In any case, how's everybody doing today? We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. I know today is a little kind of, I don't know, kind of lackluster because it's not the 1000th episode. I wish it were. I wish it still were the 1000th episode, but we're having a good time here. I'm hoping that you're having a good time here. In the end, we're going to have a great time because I'm here, you're here. Unfortunately, Mike is not here, but that's okay. That's okay because we'll be all right. We're going to have a good time. Just as a reminder, if you're watching this program live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, well, then you're watching us live and we're taking your comments. So if we find you have something interesting to say, please go ahead. If you think you have something interesting to say, let me clarify that. Go ahead and give us a shout out. Go ahead and tell us what's up. Go ahead and say something. We would love to hear from you. And whether or not we find it interesting is really kind of irrelevant. No, it's not irrelevant. It's been a long day. Anyway, it's not irrelevant because that's the number one most important thing. What's irrelevant is whether or not we agree with you. Now, if I disagree with you, just know this, that I reserve the right to mock you.
Oh, wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
That's right. Yes, I play that every time because I love it. I think it is hilarious. And to be honest, I do the show mostly for me. And I think Mike does it mostly for him. We do it because we enjoy doing it. We enjoy hanging out. We enjoy talking politics. We enjoy hanging out with you guys and talking with you guys about what is going on during the day. So once again, uh, feel free to chime in. Would love to hear what you have to say. Let's go ahead and get into the program. And you know how we started. We always started with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries. They sell rifle and pistol caliber barrels available at any length for you to buy. So whether you're looking to do a brand new build or you're looking to rebarrel your old rifle, you need to check them out. If you bought an AR in the last few years, chances are you already have one of their barrels. So if you like it, get another one. Where can you get it? Hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all level of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to check them out. Just go to cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. That's right. You will find them at Hog Holsters. That's HAWG Holsters. You know why they call it Hog Holsters? Because it's helping Americans wear guns. That's right. Go there, check them out. And if you find something that you're interested in, and trust me, I'm pretty sure you will, go ahead and use that discount code. It's just like it is right up there. That discount code, it's the rundown. All caps, no spaces. You don't have, doesn't matter if it's red or it's white, but just one word, all spaces, all caps. Use the rundown and get your holster with a nice little discount. That's hogholsters.com. And then we've got the place to go if you're buying brand new gear. If you're like me, as the weather changes, your gear changes, right? You change your gear based on what your needs are. Well, best place to go is uscombatgear.com. They have a huge selection. They have competitive pricing, especially they specialize in group sales. What does that mean? That means that if you got a group, if you're part of a group, a club, if you're a purchasing agent for your department or for your agency or for your unit, this is the place you got to go. You got to go check them out. That's uscombatgear.com. They specialize, once again, in group sales, and they have the best customer service available out there. Trust me, you will love them. We're good friends with the owners, and they are some phenomenal folks. You definitely want to check them out. uscombatgear.com, where you can find all things tactical except the gun. All right, let's go ahead and get into today's news. And we're going to start with this story right here. Um, I keep bringing these stories to you because I need you to understand that you're not seeing these same sorts of stories on the right. When you go to CNN, or you go to MSNBC, or you go to the New York Times or the LA Times, when you hear about violence, it's usually left-wing violence on left wing. In other words, it's black on black crime. It's it's almost always traditional violence. You don't see a lot of conservatives, and I mean identified conservatives, where you can look at the motivation behind the violence that they are engaging in and identify and say, that is a right-wing extremist, right? That's a Trumpster right there, who's part of that. That's a TPUSA guy, right? That's a guy who's part of the MAGA crowd. You don't find that, you don't see that. They don't expose themselves in the things that they are saying and doing, right? But you do on the left. And a great example is the example of a woman who on the left, well, let's just say she decided that she was going to mow down a police officer. And how do we know it was left wing? Because she said, "F these cops, F these cops." This is what she said. Well, turns out she had her day in court. And well, first, let me show you what she did. Let me show you the actual incident. Then we'll talk about her day in court afterwards.
Be careful!
So you saw there, she literally mowed down the cop. I mean, mowed down is, I said, there's run over. She didn't actually run over, but, mowed down, run over, ran into, same thing. Same. Anyway, so this driver, and then by the way, this occurred last January, right? Basically got a light sentence. Let me read a little bit of the story from over here at Fox News. It says a woman who intentionally struck a New York and NYPD officer with her car after shouting anti-police remarks has been sentenced to prison, a punishment the police union says was too lenient. Wait. So she went to jail. Wait, there's more. Sarah Dula, or Sahara Dula, 25, received the sentence Wednesday in Manhattan Superior Court, along with 3 years of post release supervision after pleading guilty to second-degree assault in June. Prosecutors said Dula intentionally hit the officer with her black Lexus on January 17th, 2024, while driving the wrong way on Park Avenue near East 71st Street. Officers were in the area investigating a robbery at a nearby luxury boutique, and had partially closed the roadway, according to court documents. Video Video cited in the records shows an officer approaching Dula's car, which you guys saw that, to direct her back into the correct lane. Instead of stopping, Dula accelerated, striking the officer head on. The officer rolled over the hood before hitting the pavement and suffered a fractured leg, prosecutors said in court filings. There's the officer you can see right there, right? We all saw that, just saw that in the video. It says here, Dula was immediately taken into custody, police said. While under arrest, she went on an anti-police tirade and admitted she had hit the officer on purpose, according to the court documents. Quote, I told the cop I wanted to go straight and he wouldn't move, so I hit him. I did it on purpose, Dula told investigators, according to the records. F these cops. He wouldn't move, she shouted shortly after the incident, the filings state. Authorities said Dula drove northbound on the southbound lanes of Park Avenue for roughly 10 blocks while under the influence of marijuana. Officers recovered rolling papers and a container of marijuana in her car's cup holder, court records show. Dula, a criminal justice graduate, oh, that's interesting. That's rich, has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and is receiving ongoing mental health treatment, according to the New York Post. Police Benevolent Association President Patrick Patrick Hendry criticized the outcome, telling Fox News Digital that the justice system needs to send a strong message. This sentence is not nearly strong enough. This individual tried to run down a New York City police officer. She could have killed him. We're glad she's going behind bars instead of walking free, but there must be zero leniency for attacks on police officers. So basically, this person who decided that they were going to intentionally run over a police officer while under the influence. By the way, I didn't see anything about charges about her being under the influence. Basically, she decided after that, she got 2 years and then she got 3 years supervised, 3 years supervision. I don't know if that's probation or exactly what that is, but she could have gotten up to 7 years. And that was just on the assault charges. What about assaulting a police officer? Are you telling me in New York you don't get any more charges or anything else? How about obstructing or delaying a police officer in the performance of his duties? How about that? Why wasn't she at least charged with that? No, they decided they're just going to let her go. Well, once again, this is creating permission structures. And that's a real problem here. When you create permission structures, and there's multiple ways that they do it. All right. A lot of times on the left, you have people who are the opinion leaders, who are in media and entertainment. They're advocating violence towards people on the right, but also towards law enforcement, including ICE. You see it and you hear it all the time. But then you've also got lawmakers, members of Congress, members of city councils who are calling for violence against law enforcement. And yes, ICE are law enforcement. They're creating these permission structures by saying it's okay, also by calling them Nazis, by saying that they're the next Hitler, by saying that they're armed gangs roaming through our communities. That creates a permission structure. And then to make it worse, when you have a situation like this, where an officer when someone intentionally attacks an officer with their vehicle, that is attempted murder. That is assault with a deadly weapon. And she got 2 years. Which at the state level, if she got 2 years, chances are she'll be out in what, 8 months? You don't see that happening on the right. If someone on the right, well, first of all, you don't see many acts of violence by people on the right because they are motivated by, stuff they hear on the right. Right. You're also not seeing leaders, opinion leaders, thought leaders, elected leaders on the Republican side of the aisle or on the right encouraging people to resist officers and resist law enforcement and to fight against law enforcement. You don't see that. You don't hear that. If you have instances, I encourage you, put it in the chat, put it in the comments. Let me hear it. Show a link. Don't just tell me. Show me a link. Send me a link to it. And tell me how that is an example of right-wing violence encouraged by the leadership on the right. I encourage you to do that, please. I'm not saying I know I'm right, but I'm pretty darn sure I'm right. I'm not finding much of it I'm not finding many examples of this sort of stuff happening on the right. But yet they want us to say that both sides are the same. We are not the same. We are not the same. When George Floyd was killed, or when he died, there were riots in the streets for the entire summer. People died. Billions of dollars of property was destroyed. Thousands of law enforcement officers were attacked and injured. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, they held a prayer vigil. Probably one of the biggest memorial services for a non-head of state ever. Yes, it was even bigger than Martin Luther King Jr.'s. How much violence was there? None. We are not the same. We aren't. All right, let's move on to our next story. Um, you know that there's a government shutdown going on right now. And you know that as a result of this government shutdown, as time goes on, because right now we're I think we're at the second longest shutdown and we're about to be the longest shutdown. Well, some places are starting to run out of money, and one of those is SNAP, right? This is food assistance program. And Republicans have done whatever they could to try and get the Democrats to reopen the government so that they can fund it. Well, turns out Democrats aren't interested in reopening the government. In fact, they see this as leverage, right? Josh Harder, and I wish I had pulled the video down. Josh Harder is on video talking about, well, why would you give up this leverage? Yeah, we want to talk about, because right now their whole thing is they want to negotiate. They want health care for illegal immigrants. They want to continue the Obamacare subsidies, because they want quote unquote affordable health care. But the problem is the Affordable Care Act never was affordable. It didn't create affordable health care. It subsidized health insurance premiums. Health insurance companies didn't lower their premiums at all. They didn't lower it at all. They just got the government to pay what you didn't have to pay, or what those people who are on Obamacare wouldn't have to pay. Well, it got temporarily increased during COVID because some people, weren't able to work. And COVID's over. Y'all should be back to work. We got record low unemployment. So yeah, you should. So there should not be any real need for the subsidy. But here's the problem: insurance premiums are going up. It's got nothing to do with anything that President Trump is doing. It's got everything to do with the fact that it was never actually affordable. They did nothing to cut the affordability. In fact, if you were to put those subsidies back, it would only really decrease or reduce rates by about 4 to 5%. The rest of it, that's just the cost. That's just prices going up. Because once again, the Affordable Care Act never actually made healthcare affordable. It made health insurance for those on the plan more affordable because other people were paying the bill. Anyway, all that having been said, now there's a shutdown. And people who are reliant on food stamps or on government assistance for food, now it comes in the form of an EBT card. Now all of a sudden they're in danger of losing those benefits. Well, so here though be the problem. Where are we at here? The problem is now you've got a judge, and this is an Obama judge. I know, big surprise. But now you've got a judge who is now saying that they are going to be looking at basically not allowing them to cut off benefits. It says here, judge skeptical of Trump position in fight over SNAP fund. Boston, well, there you go, Massachusetts, Boston, Mass. A Boston federal judge indicated Thursday she will require the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA, to tap into contingency fund to partially cover supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits. U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani said in a court that in court that the government must determine an equitable way to reduce benefits amid the ongoing government shutdown. She will issue a ruling later Thursday. Quote, if you don't have money, you tighten your belt, said Talwani, an appointee of former President Obama. You're not going to make everyone drop dead because it's a political game someplace. The lawsuit was filed by Democratic officials in 25 states and Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. It alleged that the USDA's impending suspension of SNAP benefits set to kick in Saturday is illegal. So in other words, shutting down the government. Oh, by the way, let's be clear, who shut down the government? Republicans have voted to open the government dozens of times. And Democrats have voted to shut down the government, keep the government shut down dozens of times. Well, if the government's shut down, the president and the administration, they can only spend what they have, right? They can only spend the money that they got. And you want them to now spend money that they don't have? Who is this judge? The judge is supposed to interpret laws. That's the role of the judge, to interpret laws, not to write law, not to create equity, as this particular judge seems to think it's her job to do. That's not her job. Her job is not to create equity. Her job is to interpret the law. Anyway, this is just going to be one more example of out of control Democrat appointed justices who believe that their job is to fight Trump. And in the end, the Supreme Court has got to wake up. They're going to have to do something. They're going to have to declare in one way or another. They're going to have to start to take a look at possibly removing some of these judges who are basically trying to legislate from the bench, trying to be the executive and the legislative branch from the bench. You don't get to tell the president how to do his job. You interpret the law. And I don't see how they don't have to prove anything to you except that they are following the law. That's the only thing they have to prove. And anyway, once again, in this particular case, these judges have lost. And this is just another example of out of control judicial tyranny. That's all it is. They want to control the executive. And my attitude is this: if you want to control the executive, resign from the bench and run for president, run for governor, right? Run for some executive office there in your state. But you don't get to tell the executive how to do. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. So in the end, whatever this judge decides to do, I'm sure whoever loses is going to appeal it. Appellate courts generally tend to be more reasonable, although there are certain ones that are not. But eventually it'll make its way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will shut this down. They will. We already know that Democrats are losing on this issue, and that's the reason why. See, rather than just open up the government, they feel they have to sue. They have to do these sorts of things. They have to take it to court so that they can blame Republicans. And when you have a judiciary that's more than willing, or when you have judges, because you don't necessarily have a judiciary, because there are plenty of people in the judiciary who recognize the role of the judiciary and don't support stuff like this, and that's the reason why they don't get these cases. Because the folks who are filing these lawsuits know better than to take it to them. Anyway. Moving right along, California unions propose a 5% tax on billionaires. Wow. Like Mike Zuckerberg. Ooh. Let's pull this story up here real quick. This being reported by the folks over at the New York Post. California's richest residents, like Mark Zuckerberg, could be slapped with a 5% billionaire tax if unions get their way. California's richest residents could be slapped with a one-time 5% tax on their net worth if a new law makes it onto the ballot next year. The measure, called the 2026 Billionaire Tax Act, seeks to counter $30 billion in potential federal funding cuts to California's Medicaid program. Cash from the new tax would also pay for the Golden State's struggling public education system, according to supporters of the act, which include the Service Employees International Union, or SEIU. They are, they're basically Marxists. Zuckerberg could be hit with the tax if the act is passed. If passed and signed off by Governor Gavin Newsom, California's tech bosses like Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang could face huge tax bills. 5% of Huang's estimated net worth could see him paying a one-time bill of over $8 billion, for example. Zuck's bill would be even higher, around $12 billion or more. Liberal supporters argue that around 200 billionaires in California hold about 2 trillion in wealth, but the state's other 19 million taxpayers pay a much larger portion of their true income, echoing policies of the New York mayoral frontrunner uh, Zohran Mamdani. So there you go. That's what it is right there, folks. This is another part of the communist plot, because that's who he is. He's a jihadist communist. There's no other way. The jihadi communist is the way I like to refer to him. The guy who's never held down a real job. But anyway, so this is what their goal is. Now, here's the problem with that. If this thing were to make it on the ballot, they can't do it retroactively. So, why would they not just change their residency? Do you know how easy it is to change your residency? All you do is you go on your tax form and you say, my main residence is now in Florida. My new residence is now in Texas. Way back in the day when Tiger Woods signed his $90 million deal with Nike. I know that ain't much, that ain't a very big deal these days. But back in the day when he signed it, it was huge. That day, he went from being a resident of California to a resident of Florida. It saved him about $4 million a year in taxes. All you're going to do is chase those billionaires out of California. And by the way, let's just be real. In the state of California, we are overly dependent on the wealthy, right? The investment class. If they're not doing well in California, California's budget ain't doing well. We're already dealing with a budget deficit because so many of the high income earners have left California. Let me substitute that. Let me substitute that. So many of the investment class, so many of the business owners left California because it no longer became someplace. It was no longer worth it. They hit their ouch point. And now you have California's unions thinking, yeah, they're not going to go anywhere. Really? Once again, it's just proof positive that liberals generally tend to govern based not on how things are, but how they wish them to be. And unfortunately, the people who are going to pay the price are going to be the taxpayers, the ones who are left in the state of California. Because see, the reason why they're pushing for this is not because we need it. Their thing is they don't want to cut the size of government. They don't want to cut potential jobs by their members. They don't want to cut their influence. So rather than do that, let's try and find more money. And they seem to think that when they go after the billionaires won't go anywhere. Well, what happens when they do? And they don't cut the programs? Do you think they're going to eventually cut the programs, or do you think they're going to come after the taxpayers? Who are those taxpayers? I know, just keep looking straight ahead. Act like I'm not looking at you. Act like I'm not talking about you, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, that is crazy. I know we're running a little long on time here, but we're going to get over to this last story real quick. Man, we could get away without doing parting shots. This is hilarious. So Glamour magazine, they have their Women of the Year, right? Well, what if I told you that Glamour magazine's Women of the Year? What if I told you that they're dudes, or at least they're not biological women? Let's say that. I don't want to. Anyway, Glamour magazine fills its Women of the Year cover with men. This is according to Breitbart. Women's fashion magazine Glamour UK has chosen a group of 9 men, so-called dolls, who identify as women for its Women of the Year magazine cover. The magazine celebrated the non-ad as the dolls, a popular term transgender women use to refer to one another. Quote, as trans rights face increasing threat in the UK, Glamour honors 9 of the community's most groundbreaking voices at this year's Women of the Year Awards. The magazine said in its cover story, the group is shown wearing t-shirts emblazoned with the trans activist logo. Slogan, protect the dolls. Let's come down here and see. I'll just find it here. There they are right there. Protect the dolls. Now, let's be very clear. It's not that trans rights are under attack. It's not like your right to live, your right to vote, your right to have a job is under attack in Great Britain. The only thing that has happened in Great Britain is they've said, we are no longer going to allow you to medically transition children, right? They're basically saying that children are no longer going to be able to receive medication that will permanently alter their that will permanently alter their bodies in the name of gender affirming care. They're no longer going to receive surgeries like castration, like mastectomies, once again, in the name of gender affirming care. These are permanent alterations to one's bodies, the removing of healthy physical parts. That's the only thing that's happened in the UK. That's it. And yet now they're saying, well, yeah, we're going to honor all of these, we're going to honor transgender women. Once again, as an adult, and I'm going to say this one last time, as an adult, you can do what you want. You are more than happy. If you want to live your life as a woman, you want to do all of that stuff, you are welcome to it. You are an adult. I'm believing that you've made an informed decision. You're if you're an adult, you've got a fully formed brain, as unlike a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old child. You're a grown adult, and you can make those decisions. But that's not the case with young people. That's not the case with kids. And that's all that's happened in Great Britain. Is all they've said is, yeah, we're not. And here's the thing. They weren't always like that, but they said, they did the studies. And what the studies said was there was no decrease in suicidal ideation. Absolutely none. What the studies also showed that there were some significant health problems that were created as a result of this quote unquote gender affirming care. And gender affirming care is not just sitting down with a psychologist and the psychologist telling you, okay, well, you can change your name, you can grow your hair long and wear females' clothing or other genders' clothing. It's the medication that is known to have side effects, that makes permanent changes. Anyway, I get it. I'm going on long. Anyway, folks, look, the show ran a little bit over today. I'm only going to run a couple of our parting shots for you today. For those of you who do not know, parting shots are brought to you by our friends over at Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com, use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, and get your hog holster today. This last issue that I was just talking to you about, I just want to tell you, it is not popular. It is not popular with the mainstream. It may be popular in places like New York City. It may be popular in places like the big cities of California, like LA, like in LA or in Sacramento, where I'm at, or down in the Bay Area. But it's not popular with most Democrat or most voters, period.
Democratic brand right now has about the appeal with the American voter as the Cracker Barrel rebrand has with the American consumers. Bad, bad, bad. The Republican Party is in their best position at this point in the cycle since at least 2005 in all 4 of these key battleground states. In Arizona, you got a Republican gain of 3 points. Okay, how about Nevada? A gain of 6 points. North Carolina, a gain of 8 points. Pennsylvania, again, we're talking about a gain of 8 points. My goodness gracious, for Republicans, they are converting old former Democrats to their side of the ledger as well as picking up new voters. Are there any bright spots for Democrats? Have they picked up any ground since January 1 in terms of party registration? When it comes to party registration, Republicans have made massive gains. As I said at the beginning, the Democratic brand is in about as good a position as the Cracker Barrel rebrand. It is bad, bad, bad for the Democrats.
And folks, let's just be clear. It's not because Republicans are doing it all right. We're not. Tell you what we're not doing. We're not transing the kids. We're not letting men play in women's sports. We're not advocating for open borders. We're not, we're not lying about the economy, about where the economy is, right? We're not decriminalizing crime. We're not out there actively talking about violence against our political enemies. So this is a bed that has been made by Democrats. Oh, one of the other things that we're not doing, we're not ignoring when folks who are terrorists actually act like terrorists.
Have you noticed that now that Hamas has taken over again, they're what?
Shooting everybody.
Shooting everybody. Where are the protesters? Suddenly, the keffiyeh wearing college kids are very
can't be found. Yeah, can't be found anywhere.
This is okay. It's just amazing the asymmetry of what goes on
because of all the sympathy. Look, you can, and again, this is the two ideas in your head at the same time that for some reason most people don't seem to want to participate in, which is you can look at Hamas and say that's a terrible terrorist organization and hate them, which you should, and at the same time have some sympathy for the Palestinian people. I can do that. And by the way, I'm an American Jew who thinks that Israel needs to be supported in all this. I don't understand why why we as a country can't have that conversation, just say it like it is.
Pretty much. But you just can't if you're on the left. All right, our next two here are brought to you by our friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. This first one here. Democrats vow to starve as many food stamp recipients as it takes to get free health care for illegal immigrants. That pretty much says it all right there. And the last one, AOC tells mom giving birth to get a real job. Yeah, because that's kind of where the left feels about being a mom. It ain't a real thing. All right, folks, that brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, we're going to give one last quick shout out to our sponsors. We got the friends over at Hitman Industries. Just go to hitmanindustries.net. Get rifle and pistol caliber barrels available today. You got the California Republican Assembly. Check them out at cragop.org. That's the conscience of the Republican Party. You've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. And then finally, you've got the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun. That would be uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today. We will be back tomorrow on Free for All Friday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you mañana.